TrueStory Vibes warmly welcomes all our beloved listeners. We're so glad to see you again in our familiar time slot.
Today,
TrueStory Vibes brings you a brand new story, one that we hope will touch your heart and stay with you. As you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing the quote or moment that left the deepest impression on you. Wishing you a wonderful and meaningful listening experience. Emily Caldwell pressed the rag against the edge of the coffee table, her knuckles whitening as she scrubbed at an invisible stain. In the corner, the late afternoon sun slanted through gauzy curtains, illuminating every speck of dust that swirled in the stale air. Her mother-in-law, Marian Caldwell, sat motionless on the faded floral sofa, knitting needles clicking, voice low and sharp as a scalpel. "Really, Emily," Marian drawled, her tone impatient yet measured. "You've been at this for nearly an hour, and I can still see specks on the glass. Did you even bother to spray the cleaner evenly?" Emily's fingers stilled for a fraction of a second. "Mom," she said, keeping her voice steady. "Maybe the light's playing tricks." Marian set down her knitting and fixed Emily with a cool gaze. "Don't patronize me," she said softly, words laden with accusation. "I lived in that house for 30 years before you arrived. If there's one thing I know, it's how to keep a home spotless. Yet here we are." The radio in the living room buzzed quietly, a midday news broadcast rolling on. Local weather, a city council bickering over pothole repairs, mundane chatter that underscored the tension rather than alleviating it. Emily flicked the radio knob off, silence crashing in its wake. In that hush, every creak of the hardwood floor sounded like thunder. Emily bent again, scrubbing until her wrist ached. She wondered how a home so warm 16 years ago could feel so cold now. From upstairs came the patter of small feet. Lily, Emily's 9-year-old daughter, peeked around the doorframe, clutching her beloved stuffed rabbit. Lily's green eyes brimmed with concern. She dropped the rabbit at her mother's side and wrung her hands. "Mom," Lily whispered, "are you okay?" At that moment, Marian cleared her throat. "Lily, dear, go upstairs and finish your spelling homework before dinner." Lily hesitated, looking from her grandmother to her mother. Emily rose, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Go on, sweetheart. I'll be right up." Lily nodded and retreated, footsteps light on the stairs. Once Lily was gone, Marian resumed her knitting but continued to watch Emily like a hawk. "I don't understand why John can't see this," Marian said, voice deliberately loud enough for Emily to hear. "He works all day, comes home, and expects a 5-star hotel experience. We're not running a resort here." Emily's throat tightened. John, her husband, had indeed been distant lately, eyes glued to his phone, briefcase by the door, a goodnight kiss replaced by a quick nod. She remembered the early days, when he'd linger over breakfast with her, trading jokes about jazz records and weekend hikes. Now he barely looked up. She took a deep breath. "I'm doing my best, Mom," she answered quietly. "Maybe." Marian held up a hand. "Your best isn't good enough. I hate to say it, dear, but I wouldn't settle for less. Are you sure you know what you're doing?" Emily's stomach nodded. She could taste bitterness on her tongue. She thought of her own mother, who had praised every cookie she baked, every report she turned in. That mother had believed in her. Yet here, in her husband's childhood home, Emily was made painfully aware of every mistake. "My upbringing might be different from yours," Emily said, meeting Marian's gaze, "but I'm raising our daughter with love. I clean. I cook. I work part-time at the community center. I do care." Marian's needles stilled. For a moment, her icy composure cracked, revealing something like disappointment. Then she slipped back into her cool reserve. "Love is not enough," she said. "Not when people see you as lazy." Emily's chest tightened, blood rushing to her ears. She wanted to shout that she was more than this tense living room, more than a dust-covered coffee table. But she swallowed and turned away, sweeping her long dark hair back before picking up the rag again. 2 hours earlier, she'd arrived with Lily and Chloe, Lily's friend, from school. Chloe's shy smile and gentle manners had offered a welcome distraction. But Chloe's own story of working double shifts to support an ailing mother only underscored Emily's sense of failure.
Now,
Alone with Marian's relentless scrutiny, Emily wrestled with doubt. Still, she straightened her shoulders and continued to scrub, each careful stroke a testament to her resolve. She would not break down here. She would prove she belonged. Across the room, Marian's needles clicked with deliberate slowness, a metronome marking Emily's struggle.
outside.
The sky darkened with late-day clouds. Somewhere beyond these walls, lightning flashed, an approaching storm, both outside and within this household. Emily paused, breathed deeply, and pressed her palm against her heart. She would weather this tempest, for herself, for Lily, and for the fragile hope of repair that still flickered in her chest. Even if her own mother-in-law refused to see it, Emily knew the truth. She was worthy of belonging here, worthy of love, and, most of all, worthy of her own respect. Lily bounded down the stairs two at a time, her rabbit clutched under one arm, and her friend Chloe trailing close behind. Emily set aside the rag and turned, relief washing over her at the sight of Lily's bright face. Even Marian's knitting needles paused as Lily darted into Emily's arms. "Mom, this is Chloe," Lily said shyly, her voice a mix of excitement and apology. She needed a quiet place to talk. Chloe, 19 but with the wide, wary eyes of someone who'd grown up too fast, offered a small, grateful smile. Emily motioned them forward. "Come in," she said gently. "Can I get you some lemonade?" Chloe nodded and settled onto the sofa, Lily tugging at her sleeve to make space. Marian regarded Chloe with mild curiosity. "You've been here before?" she asked.
No, Grandma, Lily answered.
This is her first time. Emily poured 2 tall glasses of lemonade and handed one to Chloe before sitting in her own chair. Chloe took a careful sip, then set the glass down and met Emily's eyes. "My hours at the cafe got cut," she began, voice trembling. "I'm trying to pick up extra shifts, but with my mom's medical bills, I don't know how I'm going to make it." Lily slid off the sofa and knelt beside Chloe, placing a hand on her knee. "You don't have to handle this alone," Lily said earnestly. "My mom tutors at the community center. She said they have scholarships and work-study programs." Emily glanced at Marian, surprised when Marian simply watched without snapping her needles. Emily leaned forward. "Chloe, I can speak with the coordinator at the center," she said quietly. "They helped Lily with after-school classes. They might have grants or part-time positions that fit your schedule." Chloe's eyes filled with relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "I thought I'd have to take on another job. I'm exhausted." Emily nodded. "You shouldn't have to choose between your health and your education." She caught Marian's gaze. "The community center really does help people in tight spots." Marian's needles clicked once more. Slower this time. "I suppose everyone deserves a break," she said softly. Lily jumped up and offered Chloe a homemade brownie from the coffee table. "Go ahead. Mom just baked them," Lily urged. Chloe accepted one and took a hesitant bite, the warmth of the chocolate easing her tension. "This is amazing," she said, smiling genuinely for the first time. Emily stood and gently squeezed Chloe's shoulder. "You're welcome to stay through dinner," she offered. "No rush to go home." Lily bounced.
Yes.
"And I'll show you my science project afterward." Emily turned to Marian. "Is that okay?" Marian folded her knitting and set it aside. "Very well, just until I call you for dinner," she agreed, surprising Emily with her concession. As Lily led Chloe toward the staircase, their laughter echoing in the hallway, Emily felt a fragile sense of hope. Marian watched them go, then resumed her knitting. In that quiet moment, Emily knew that even the smallest gesture of kindness could forge unexpected bonds, and that, here in the Caldwell living room, a new friendship had begun to bloom. That evening, Emily guided Chloe up to the Caldwell dinner table, hoping the warm glow of the chandelier and the aroma of roasted chicken would soften the atmosphere. Instead, as soon as their footsteps echoed in the foyer, the air thickened like fog. Marian Caldwell, seated at the head of the table, gave Chloe a cool nod but said nothing. To her left, John Caldwell remained silent behind his plate, eyes flicking only once toward his phone's buzzing screen before returning to his breast of chicken. Lily sat between them, cheeks flushed with the excitement of having a friend over, clutching her napkin as if it were a lifeline. Emily pulled out a chair for Chloe and then took her own, forcing a gentle smile. She poured glasses of iced tea and passed the pitcher around, but Marian's sharp gaze lingered on Emily almost accusingly, as though the presence of another young woman offended the sanctity of her meticulously ordered home. Chloe, trying to keep her composure, whispered a thank you to Emily and offered a shy, "Mrs. Caldwell," to Marian, who simply nodded before returning to her knitting in her lap. Lily began with her usual animated chatter about school projects and after-school club plans. Chloe joined in with enthusiastic nods, trying to match Lily's energy, but Marian interrupted sharply. "Lily, less chatter at the table. It's dinner, not recess." Lily's smile faltered as she lowered her gaze. Emily's own heart ached at her daughter's sudden silence, and she reached out to squeeze Lily's hand. "Set aside the science fair for a moment, sweetheart," Emily said quietly, "and pass the potatoes, please." Lily obeyed, glancing at her grandmother, whose lips pressed into a thin line. John finally spoke, voice low and businesslike. "Chloe, I hear you've been picking up extra shifts at the cafe. That must be tough." It was an unexpected gesture of concern, but his tone remained flat, betraying no warmth. Chloe managed a small smile. "Yes, sir. I'm managing, but every bit helps." She passed the dish of green beans, her fingers trembling slightly. Marian sniffed, setting down her fork. "You work at a cafe, yet you still need help? In my day, young women didn't complain about a few extra hours." Her knitting needles clicked in emphasis. Emily's chest tightened with indignation, but she steadied her voice. "Mom, Chloe is juggling school and bills, just like many college students today. It's not a failing, it's reality." Marian pursed her lips. "Well, if I'd had so many demands, I'd have found a more suitable living situation." The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Lily's fork hovered above her plate. Chloe's eyes flicked toward the doorway, as if willing invisibility. John placed his knife down. "Emily's right. Circumstances vary these days. Chloe's doing her best, and we're fortunate Lily's mother is here to help." His defense was steady, but his gaze shifted back to his food as if the matter were closed. Chloe exhaled, relief mingling with lingering tension. Emily turned to her mother. "Mom, Chloe is a good student, a hard worker." "You've always said you value determination," Marian interrupted with a gentle scoff. "Determination doesn't cover up laziness, dear. But I'll leave you to your modern definitions." She leaned back, arms folded. Silence settled, broken only by the scrape of silverware. Lily swallowed, eyes brimming with empathy for her friend. She lifted her glass and spoke in a small voice. "Chloe, if you ever need help, really need it, I'll help you study, babysit, anything." Chloe's eyes shone with gratitude. "Thank you, Lily. You're a great friend." Emily pressed her lips together, fighting back tears. She lifted her own glass. "To friendship," she toasted softly. And Chloe and Lily clinked their glasses. Even Marian's knitting paused at the symbolic gesture, though her expression remained unreadable. As the meal progressed, Chloe found herself relaxing in small moments, John offering a second helping of chicken, Lily chattering about a science fair volcano project, Emily sharing a light-hearted anecdote about a cooking mishap at the community center kitchen. But every time Marian's gaze flicked toward her, Chloe felt that old anxiety flare up. By dessert time, warm apple crisp with vanilla ice cream, Marian still hadn't offered a word of kindness. Chloe took a cautious bite, savoring the sweetness, and wondered how long she'd have to endure this chilly reception. Emily caught her eye and nodded lightly, a silent promise of solidarity. In the midst of the Caldwell family's hush and criticism, Chloe clung to that small gesture of warmth, determined to hold onto the fragile bond blossoming between her and her hosts. When the meal finally ended, Emily rose to clear the dishes, and Lily tugged Chloe's sleeve. "Come on," she whispered. Let's show Mrs. Caldwell the new flower bed outside before we wash up. Chloe stood, heart pounding but buoyed by Lily's companionship. Marian turned back to her knitting, but Emily's supportive smile reassured Chloe that somewhere, beneath the iciness, there lay the possibility of acceptance and understanding. And for Chloe, that slender thread of hope was enough to keep her grounded through the dinner's heavy silence. That night, the Caldwell household seemed to hold its breath. After the strained silence of dinner, Emily barely slept, her mind awash with memories of Chloe's tentative smiles and her mother-in-law's icy glances. Meanwhile, John Caldwell lay awake in the bedroom he shared with Emily, fingers drumming on the crisp white sheet as the moonlight cast a pale glow across the room. He told himself it was a momentary lapse, an escape from the relentless pressure at work and the endless criticisms at home. Yet every time he closed his eyes, he saw Chloe's frightened face, heard her soft voice whispering for help. By early morning, John slipped out of the house with a resolve fueled by guilt and desire. He drove along misty suburban streets until he reached the small studio apartment where Chloe lived, the place he had encouraged her to make her own. His heart pounded as he climbed the narrow staircase and knocked softly on her door. When Chloe opened it, her eyes widened in surprise and shame, the quiet lamplight revealing dark circles beneath them. "I couldn't stop thinking about you," John said, his voice cracking. He reached out and Chloe stepped back, her hand shaking as she closed the door only halfway between them. He leaned through the gap and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I know this is wrong, but I can't." Chloe's breath hitched. She swallowed hard and stepped forward, her tears glistening. "I know," she whispered. She unlatched the door, letting John in. The familiar scent of vanilla candles and coffee lingered in the air, but tonight it felt suffocating. They stood in the cramped living room, bookshelves pressing in on them, the single window overlooking an empty alley. John's eyes roamed the scattered textbooks and Lily's stray stuffed rabbit lying on an armchair, reminders of the life he was betraying. "I never meant for this to happen," he said hoarsely. He reached for her hand, but Chloe flinched. "I never asked for any of this," Chloe replied, voice shaking. "And now, I'm pregnant." The words fell between them like a guillotine blade. For a moment, there was only silence, an oppressive hush charged with fear and regret. John's breath caught in his throat. "Pregnant," he echoed, stepping closer. Chloe nodded, tears spilling over. "I found out yesterday. I was so scared. I needed someone to talk to." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her eyes pleading. "I didn't know where else to go." Reality crashed down on John with bone-crushing force. He staggered as if struck. The guilt of his actions, the betrayal of his vows, and the knowledge that he had placed Chloe at risk of single motherhood all coalesced into a vice around his heart. "Chloe, I love Emily. I love Lily. What have I done?" he whispered. Chloe's shoulders shook. "I know you do. But you were alone. You were vulnerable. I felt safe with you." She took a trembling step forward. "I'm not asking you to leave your family. I don't want to destroy you both. But I'm having your baby, John, and I don't know what to do." He closed his eyes, pressing his forehead against hers. The weight of his choices hung between them, unbearably real. "We'll figure this out," he said, voice brittle. "I'll stand by you. We'll find a way." But even as he spoke the words, he knew they rang hollow. How could he find a way without destroying the family he had built with Emily? Back at home, Emily had woken early to prepare breakfast for Lily before school. As she hummed softly to herself, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "I'm pregnant." It's his.
Emily, I'm sorry, Chloe.
Her breath hitched. An unfamiliar dread sank into her stomach. She stared at the text, hands trembling, as the world tilted on its axis. That single message shattered her morning calm, scattering her thoughts like broken glass. Emotionally unmoored, Emily left Lily at the school bus with a stiff hug and a forced smile. Her legs carried her home on autopilot. Stepping inside, she found the kitchen immaculate, Marian's handiwork, yet it offered no comfort. Afghanistan of silence stretched through the house. She glanced at the clock and realized Lily would be at school for hours, and John wouldn't be home until late. She fumbled for her phone and dialed John's number. He answered on the third ring, sounding hoarse. Emily. Emily's voice cracked as she blurted, "Is Chloe staying here?" Confusion rumbled through John's voice.
What?
No, Emily, what's going on? Emily held up the text on her screen. Why is she having our baby? Tears streamed down her face. Who else have you lied to? Silence. Then John stammered, Emily. This isn't what it looks like, but Emily couldn't bear to hear any more. She hung up and crumpled to the floor, sobbing. That afternoon, John came home to an empty house. Emily and Lily were gone. Her purse and phone lay on the table, no note, just abandonment. Panic seized him. He raced to his car and desperately called Emily over and over. No answer. His hands shook as he smashed the speed dial for Chloe, but her voicemail picked up. Fear burned in his chest. He had lost everything he thought he held dear. As twilight settled, Emily stood in the parking lot of a small roadside chapel, looking out at the empty pews. Earlier, she had driven Lily and Chloe to her childhood home for refuge. She had not yet told her mother the full truth, only that something terrible had occurred, a betrayal that demanded space and time to breathe. Inside the chapel, sunlight filtered through stained glass, painting the floor in red and blue. Emily sat in the front pew, Lily clinging to her side, Chloe perched stiffly beside them. All three women wore expressions of stunned exhaustion. What do we do, Mom? Lily whispered, voice wavering. Will Dad come back? Emily tightened her arms around her daughter, forcing her voice to remain steady. I don't know, sweetheart. But right now we have each other. She turned to Chloe, whose eyes were red-rimmed but determined. Chloe, thank you for bringing this to light. We'll figure out what's next, with or without John's help. Chloe nodded, tears welling. I'm sorry, she murmured. I never intended any of this. Sorry doesn't erase what happened, Emily replied. But we'll find a way to move forward, one step at a time. That night, John returned home to an empty house. He sank onto the couch, heart pounding. After pacing for what felt like hours, he dialed Chloe's number and left a pleading voicemail. Chloe, please call me. We have to talk. Then he called his office, canceled his morning meetings, and sat staring at the blank wall, the weight of his cowardice pressing down like a vice. In the days that followed, rumors rippled through the neighborhood. John Caldwell seen at late-night diners, Emily Caldwell's car parked at her mother's house, Chloe Caldwell, as the local press had jumped on the surname connection, photographed in front of the chapel. The scandal spread like wildfire, fueled by social media gossip and judgmental stares at soccer fields and grocery store aisles. Inside the Caldwell home, Marian Caldwell learned of the affair with a mix of fury and disbelief. She demanded that John move out, that he confess publicly, that Emily sever ties with Chloe. When Emily refused, insisting her daughter's friend deserved protection, Marian threw a vase in rage, shattering it against the wall. You've made your bed, Emily, she spat. Now lie in it. Then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the house shook. Emily shielded Lily and Chloe, deflecting Marian's venomous words. Mom, enough, she finally said, voice firm. This has gone too far. But Marian was not to be dissuaded. She took Lily and left, demanding custody until Emily threw John out. From her mother's house down the street, Lily sobbed into Emily's shoulder. Mom, what about Daddy? Will he ever come home? Emily held her close, her own tears mingling with Lily's. I don't know, but I promise you, I will never let anyone treat you, or me, like we're disposable. Through it all, the public humiliation, the fractured family gatherings, the endless legal consultations, Chloe remained at Emily's side, leaning on the kinship they had forged in living room conversations and tense dinners. And in the eye of this maelstrom, Emily Caldwell discovered a reservoir of strength she never knew she possessed. The betrayal had shattered her life into jagged fragments, But from those pieces, she resolved to build something new, an unbreakable bond between mother and daughter, a sanctuary for a frightened young woman with a child on the way, and, perhaps one day, a path to redemption for the man who had lost his way. No one could guess what would come next, whether the marriage could survive, whether forgiveness was possible, or whether Emily would emerge stronger if she let it all go. But on that trembling precipice between heartbreak and hope, Emily chose to stand tall, her hand pressed against Lily's tiny palm, guiding them both forward into the uncertain dawn. Emily Caldwell stood in the foyer of her mother's modest bungalow, the late afternoon sun filtering through frosted glass and casting long rectangles of light across her polished shoes. Every ounce of her frustration, fear, and pain coalesced into a single, steady resolve. Behind her, Lily clutched her hand, and Chloe hovered nearby, the weight of betrayal etched on both their faces. Against the shrill demand of her grandmother's voice echoing from the nearby room, "You have no right to drag my granddaughter into this scandal." Emily lifted her chin and drew a deep, leveling breath. "Grandma," she began, her voice calm but unshakably firm, "this ends now." The words struck the air like a bell. Marian Caldwell emerged from the living room in a swirl of floral chiffon and fury. "You dare," she started, but Emily held up a hand to silence her. "Yes, idare." Emily's eyes, so often downcast under Marian's glare, now flashed with a fierce light. "I dare to say that Chloe is not a threat to my daughter or my family. She is my daughter's friend, and she has nowhere else to turn. I will not let you treat her, or me, like we're burdensome." Marian's knitting needles clattered to the floor. "Burden? You have turned my home into a circus. My own son will be sued for child support, and you stand here defending," her lips curled, "the mistress." Emily's jaw tightened, but she did not flinch. Instead, she took a step forward. "Chloe is carrying John's child," she said plainly. "That doesn't make her a mistress in some salacious soap opera. It makes her a young woman facing an unthinkable situation. And it makes me, his wife, the only person who can protect her from complete ruin." A sharp intake of breath sounded behind her, and Emily glanced down to see Lily's eyes shining with admiration. At that moment, she felt both the fierce love of a mother and the protective embrace of solidarity with Chloe. The two girls exchanged a quick, silent look, a secret pact of loyalty. Marian's outrage rippled across her features. "Lily is my granddaughter," she shouted, "and you have no right to treat me like an obstacle." Emily took another step forward, narrowing the distance between them. "You are Lily's grandmother," she agreed, "and I am Lily's mother. I will not cede that authority to you when your actions risk tearing this family apart." Marian's breath hitched. The sudden certainty in Emily's voice cut through her defenses like a knife. For decades, Marian had been the unchallenged matriarch, commanding deference with a single glance. Now, faced with Emily's unbowed stare, she faltered. John Caldwell burst through the front door at that moment, arriving earlier than expected. He took in the tableau, his mother standing tense as a statue, his wife anchored like a beacon of strength, Lily and Chloe huddled behind Emily's protective stance. John's own heart clenched with shame and awe. "Emily," he said quietly, as though the gravity of this confrontation made any raised voice impossible. "Please." Emily turned to him, eyes softening just enough. "This is exactly why I won't let things stay as they are. You betrayed me. You betrayed our daughter. But you will not betray Chloe. You will not betray your child." John swallowed, his throat working. I don't know what to do." Emily let out a breath she had been holding. "We go to the hospital tomorrow. We do blood tests. We talk to a counselor. No," Marian rasped, nearly choking on the word. "No more doctors. No more family drama. You will send that girl away. Tonight." Emily straightened, the door of her resolve closing shut. "My mother's home is open to Chloe and me," she said. "Yours is not. If you try to force her out, you'll have to force Lily out, too. And you won't do that. Because this is our home as much as it is yours." Marian's face paled, and she retreated into the living room as though wounded. Emily watched her go, then knelt down to Lily's level, smoothing a curl from her daughter's cheek. "We're okay, sweetheart," Emily said gently. Lily nodded, eyes bright, and Chloe let out a shaky breath of relief. Emily stood, meeting John's gaze again. "You'll stay in a hotel tonight," Emily told him in a low, unwavering tone. "We leave space for healing, and for Chloe to be safe. You'll come here tomorrow, but you'll treat us both with respect." John closed his eyes as if steeling himself. I understand." Emily turned toward the front room. "Chloe, let's go unpack your things. I've set up your room, and I've already spoken to Lily's school about helping you with tuition options." She offered Chloe her hand, and Chloe took it, relief pooling in her eyes. That night, Emily Caldwell lay in bed in her childhood home, Lily curled beside her, and Chloe in the guest room next door. The moonlight slipped across the ceiling like a pale promise. Redemption was possible. Forgiveness uncertain but necessary, and above all, Emily's voice had become the anchor of her household. She closed her eyes and let the calm wash over her, knowing she had stood her ground, protected her daughter, and offered refuge to another. Tomorrow would demand more courage, more hard conversations, but tonight, Emily reveled in the unshakable truth that she had risen, and that her family, in all its fractured beauty, would rise with her. Emily Caldwell stared at the rearview mirror as she guided her sedan out of the driveway one last time, Lily perched beside her with Chloe riding shotgun. Behind them, the Caldwell mansion, once a sanctuary of shared laughter, loomed like a silent monument to a life irreparably fractured. Each mile marker they passed felt like a step away from betrayal and toward possibility. Emily's heart pounded as she navigated through the tree-lined streets of suburban Seattle, her daughter's small hand finding hers in the quiet tension. They arrived at a cozy bungalow tucked beneath towering pines, the home of Emily's mother, Carol Benson, a modest dwelling painted dove gray with flowering hydrangeas outside. Emily unlocked the screen door and stepped across the threshold, releasing a long-held breath. The scent of lavender polish and her childhood memories greeted her, a balm to her raw spirit. Lily's eyes widened at the sight of her grandmother's old photographs lining the hallway, each frame a testament to simpler times. Chloe set her suitcase down gently, the weight of her own uncertainty momentarily lifted by the warm light spilling from the living room windows. Carol Benson rose from her rocking chair by the fireplace, her silver hair pulled back in a loose bun, and enveloped Emily in a fierce embrace. "My girl," she whispered, voice thick with both sorrow and pride. Emily's tears spilled over as she held her mother tight, Lily and Chloe hovering close until Carol swept them both into her arms as well. In that moment, the absence of John's betrayal felt a little less heavy. Emily guided her guests toward the kitchen, where homemade chicken noodle soup simmered on the stove, a recipe passed down through generations. As the savory aroma filled the air, Emily realized the significance of this new beginning. Here, she could reclaim her identity beyond the roles of wife, victim, and caretaker. After dinner, they gathered around the kitchen table, Carol producing a stack of notebooks and pens. "We'll need a plan," she said firmly. "Lily has school, Chloe has work and classes, and you, Emily, need to build a life that stands on its own terms." Emily nodded, tracing the rim of her mug. She outlined her vision, reopening her tutoring business, using the community center contacts to secure a part-time workshop space, helping Chloe apply for financial aid and work-study programs, enrolling Lily in after-school STEM clubs to nurture her passion for science. Carol's approving smile and practical suggestions turned Emily's scattered ideas into a roadmap of tangible steps. Even Chloe, who had braced for judgment, contributed by sharing her savings account spreadsheet and proposing a small budget. Over the next days, they transformed Carol's guest room into a sanctuary. Fresh sheets, a desk for Chloe's textbooks, a small whiteboard for planning. Emily handled the logistics, changing her address, notifying schools, forwarding mail, while Lily and Chloe unpacked books and photos, arranging personal touches to reclaim space as their own. Every cardboard box carried both the pain of what was left behind and the promise of what lay ahead. Emily took Lily to school on Monday morning in their new neighborhood, the crisp air and blooming cherry blossoms offering an innocent counterpoint to the turmoil they had fled. As Lily bounded off to her bus, waving back with a bright, "I love you, Mom," Emily felt a spark of hope. Next, she escorted Chloe to the community college financial aid office, where Chloe submitted her applications under Emily's proud gaze. Each signature and stamp felt like a brick laid in the foundation of a secure future. That evening, Emily sat on the porch with a stack of business cards for local tutoring services she had researched. She drafted her first social media post, professional, warm, and clear about her specialties in mathematics and reading comprehension. Carol joined her with iced tea. "You're reclaiming your power," Carol said softly. "This is more than just a job. It's your statement that you will thrive on your own." Emily sipped her tea, feeling the truth of her mother's words resonate in her bones. Chloe, returning from her shift at the cafe, found Emily leaning into the porch railing, watching the sunset. "Thanks for everything," Chloe said, voice tired but genuine. Emily reached out and squeezed her hand. "We're in this together," she replied. "We'll celebrate every victory, big or small." In the fading light, they shared a quiet solidarity, two women who had weathered the storm and now faced the horizon with determined hearts. In the weeks that followed, Emily's tutoring schedule filled steadily. Lily flourished in her new classes and joined the robotics club. Chloe secured a work-study position at the community center and began building a resume that no longer depended on survival shifts. Even Carol found renewed purpose, helping host weekend study groups and mentoring other single mothers in the neighborhood. One morning, Emily found a note on the kitchen counter in Carol's familiar handwriting. "First paycheck in my account. Proud of you all." Beneath it, Lily had written in crayon, "Mom, you're the best." Chloe's small post-it read, "Got into the scholarship program." Emily's eyes welled with tears once more. These scraps of paper, humble and homey, were her new treasures, evidence of lives reclaimed. As the sun rose over the bungalow, Emily Caldwell stepped outside, inhaled the crisp air, and felt, for the first time in months, that she was exactly where she was meant to be, surrounded by love, guided by resilience, and on a path to write her own story, one marked not by betrayal, but by courage, hope, and the promise of a fresh start. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the King County Courthouse, casting a cold, gray light across the polished marble floor. Emily Caldwell sat at the plaintiff's table, her lawyer's brief tucked under her arm like a shield. She wore a simple navy suit, tailored but unassuming, and her hair was pulled back in a neat chignon. Across the aisle, John Caldwell sat with his attorney, shoulders slumped, eyes hollow. Between them, a wooden bench held empty seats where Chloe and Lily had once been welcome guests. Today the courtroom was strict and formal, and only attorneys and court staff were permitted near the tables. Judge Mary Ann Harper entered, gown swirling, and took her seat on the bench. Her presence was both commanding and impartial. A quiet hush fell over the room as the bailiff administered the oath. "All rise," the bailiff intoned. Everyone stood. "Please be seated," Judge Harper said, voice steady. "We are here for Caldwell versus Caldwell. Ms. Caldwell, you may present your case." Emily's lawyer, Ms. Alvarez, rose with calm efficiency. "Your Honor, today we seek a dissolution of marriage on the grounds of infidelity, abandonment, and irretrievable breakdown. We also petition for primary custody of Lily Caldwell, spousal support, and equitable division of marital assets." She opened a folder, handing a series of documents to the bailiff for marking as exhibits. Exhibit A, text messages admitting infidelity. Exhibit B, medical records confirming Chloe Matthews's pregnancy. Exhibit C, property appraisal of the marital home. Every exhibit was met with a sharp click of the bailiff's stamp. John's lawyer, Mr. Douglas, shifted uneasily. He rose to object, voice low. "Your Honor, The plaintiff's exhibits include unverified rumors and hearsay regarding Ms. Matthews. We request these be excluded. Judge Harper regarded him coolly. Ms. Alvarez, do these documents include any statements from Mr. Caldwell himself? Ms. Alvarez nodded, producing a printed transcript of voicemail messages John had left Chloe. Here's Exhibit D, a recording of Mr. Caldwell's own admission. The judge allowed it. John's face went pale. His attorney's lips pressed into a thin line. The courtroom clerk called witnesses for Emily's side. First to the stand was Chloe Matthews, visibly nervous but composed, her voice barely shaking as she confirmed her name and relationship. Under direct examination, she recounted how John had sought her out, how he had confessed his love, and how she discovered she was carrying his child. When shown the relevant voicemails and text messages, Exhibits D and Chloe's gaze remained steady. Yes, she said. That is our conversation. On cross-examination, Mr. Douglas attempted to paint Chloe as a gold digger, asking, "Did you ever discuss financial gain with Mr. Caldwell?" Chloe's eyes flashed. "Never. I was terrified. I didn't want money. I wanted to protect my future and my dignity." The judge nodded, then excused Chloe. Next came financial experts and property appraisers. Ms. Alvarez's team carefully detailed the mortgage statements and the equity buildup over 20 years, emphasizing that the marital home sale proceeds should be split equitably. John's lawyer countered with claims that Emily had used community center funds for personal expenses, but Emily produced receipts showing every dollar spent on tutoring supplies and family necessities. The judge examined the evidence, eyebrows knitting slightly as she considered the meticulous records. After a brief recess, Judge Harper returned to oversee the custody arguments. Emily's attorney spoke softly but passionately. Lily Caldwell's best interests lie with her mother, an environment of stability, love, and educational support. Mr. Caldwell's erratic behavior and absence during these critical months disqualify him from having primary custody. Photos of Lily's new robotics club trophies and report cards were entered as Exhibit E, demonstrating her academic progress since moving in with Carol Benson. John's attorney argued for joint custody, but stammered under questioning about John's willingness to seek therapy or stabilize his schedule. John himself stood, pale and thin, and pled, "I love my daughter." His voice broke. Emily watched him for a moment, compassion and resolve warring in her expression. The judge gently reminded him to direct testimony through counsel. After closing arguments, the courtroom held its breath. Judge Harper leaned forward, reviewing her notes. Finally, she spoke. In the matter of Caldwell versus Caldwell, the evidence shows Mr. Caldwell's willful breach of marital vows, documented infidelity, and lack of consistent involvement with his minor daughter. Accordingly, the marriage is hereby dissolved. Custody of Lily Caldwell is granted to Ms. Caldwell with reasonable parenting time to Mr. Caldwell on alternating weekends and holidays, subject to supervised visitation if Miss Matthews's pregnancy requires adjustments. The marital home is to be sold, with net proceeds divided equally. Ms. Caldwell is awarded spousal maintenance of $3,000 per month for 18 months and child support as determined by state guidelines. She set down her gavel. This court is adjourned. A hush lingered as Emily sank back into her chair, the tension draining from her body like water from a dam. Chloe, seated just behind her lawyer, dabbed tears from her eyes. John lowered his head into his hands, grief and acceptance mingling on his broad shoulders. Marion Caldwell, who had appeared at the back of the courtroom, arms folded, finally turned and left without a word. Outside, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing. Emily shielded Lily's face with a gentle hand, ushering her daughter and Chloe toward the courthouse steps. Her lawyer followed with the divorce decree in hand. Emily took a steadying breath. "Mom," Lily whispered, clinging to her. "Are we really free now?" Emily smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's cheek. "Yes, sweetheart. We're free to start over." She reached for Chloe's hand. Chloe squeezed back. hope shining in her eyes despite the uncertainty of the future. As they walked away from the courthouse, each step felt like a reclamation of their lives. The verdict's weight, severing the bonds that had once seemed unbreakable, left behind a clean slate. Emily breathed deeply of the crisp morning air and looked at her daughter and Chloe, two survivors bound by courage and compassion. Their new beginning awaited. Emily Caldwell stood in the warm glow of the single fluorescent fixture above her new storefront, the fresh scent of steamed noodles mingling with garlic and ginger. A hand-painted sign reading, "Mama's Noodles," hung proudly in the window, and the interior, once a dusty, vacant retail space, had been transformed into a cozy, welcoming eatery. Soft bamboo chairs lined wooden tables polished to a honeyed sheen, while shelves on the back wall displayed colorful jars of homemade chili oil and hand-drawn illustrations of noodle bowls. Beneath the chalkboard menu, Emily took a deep breath, ready to test whether her vision could survive the harshest critic of all, real customers. Her mother, Carol Benson, bustled beside her behind the counter. "Okay, Emily," Carol said, holding up a freshly printed stack of order tickets. "We've got the opening special ready. Miso broth ramen with braised chicken, scallions, and a soft-boiled egg. Are you ready for the 5 o'clock rush?" Emily's heart pounded. This was more than a business. It was her declaration of independence, her answer to betrayal and heartbreak. She nodded, smoothing her apron. "Let's do this." The door jingled at exactly 5:02 p.m. A young couple wandered in, peering around with curious smiles. Emily greeted them warmly. "Welcome to Mama's Noodles. First time here? Our miso ramen is on special tonight." The woman's eyes lit up. "Perfect. 2 bowls, please." As Carol set to work ladling steaming broth into deep ceramic bowls, Emily busied herself at the register, taking payment and directing the couple to a window seat overlooking the street. Within minutes, the bell jingled again. A trio of college students, one with a guitar case slung over her shoulder. "Heard you guys open today," the tallest student said. "We need caffeine and carbs. What do you recommend?" Emily smiled. "Our Dan Dan noodles are a customer favorite. Spicy sesame sauce, ground pork, and a drizzle of chili oil. Comes with your choice of veggie or egg." They exchanged excited looks and placed their orders. As Emily punched in the tickets, she glanced at Carol, who was deftly slicing scallions and gently cracking eggs. The kitchen ran like clockwork, every station humming smoothly. Emily felt her chest swell with pride and relief. This place, born from adversity, was alive. Over the next 2 hours, Mama's Noodles filled steadily, a mix of office workers in button-downs seeking a quick post-work meal, single parents pushing strollers, grateful for a hearty, affordable option, and curious neighbors who had seen the newspaper article about Emily's startup. Someone snapped an Instagram photo of their bowl, tagging #MamasNoodlesSeattle, and within minutes customer number 47, an incoming order via the new delivery app, pinged on Emily's phone. She bit her lip, then tapped to accept, watching the order feed directly to the kitchen. When a lull finally arrived around 7:30 p.m., Emily wiped her brow and reached for a glass of water. Carol placed a steaming bowl of miso ramen in front of her. "You deserve this," Carol said, ruffling Emily's hair. In the hush, only broken by occasional slurps and the hiss of the espresso machine, Emily closed her eyes and inhaled the complex aroma of miso, garlic, and tender chicken. She tasted the first spoonful, rich, savory, sustaining, and realized this was more than a meal. It was the flavor of her new life. That night, after the last customer left and chairs were stacked on tables for mopping, Emily and Carol sat side by side at a small table in the corner. They counted receipts, tallied tips, and confirmed that even with rent and supply costs, Mama's Noodles had broken even on opening night and netted a modest profit. Emily's stomach fluttered with excitement. "We did it," she whispered. Carol reached across and squeezed her hand. "You did it," she corrected gently. Over the next few weeks, Mama's Noodles became a neighborhood staple. Morning commuters lined up for breakfast noodle bowls, A twist on pho with poached eggs and basil. Lunch crowds devoured cold sesame noodles on sunny days. And dinner brought families who marveled at the wholesome broth and creative toppings. Emily hired 2 part-time employees, Marcus, a college student with a knack for latte art, and Anita, a culinary school graduate who helped Emily experiment with rotating specials like spicy kimchi udon and coconut curry ramen. Every suggestion, from Marcus's latte foam hearts to Anita's seasonal recipes, was welcomed. Emily's leadership balanced encouragement with clear standards for quality and consistency. Meanwhile, Lily took to helping during weekend brunches, greeting customers at the door with laminated kids' menu flyers she had designed in art class. Chloe, now living in the guest room above the bungalow next door, staffed the takeout window after her classes, earning her first paycheck in months and delighting customers by suggesting add-ons and explaining menu items with genuine warmth. Inside Mama's Noodles, laughter and the clatter of dishes replaced the silence Emily once associated with betrayal. Neighbors formed regular noodle nights, rotating between ramen, soba, and pho. Local artists displayed watercolors on the walls, and a community bulletin board let customers post events, job listings, and shoutouts. The sense of belonging and shared purpose knitted the restaurant into the fabric of the neighborhood. Challenges arose, a rare rush that left the kitchen scrambling for extra broth, a supplier mishap that delayed fresh noodles, a brief health inspection scare over sink temperatures. But each time, Emily's calm problem-solving and Carol's decades of practical wisdom guided them through, reordering supplies overnight, offering customers complimentary appetizers, and meticulously logging maintenance checks. Through setbacks and triumphs, Emily's confidence grew. One evening, a reporter from the local lifestyle magazine arrived for an interview, scribbling notes on her notepad. "What inspired you to open a noodle shop?" she asked Emily, voice lively with curiosity. Emily paused, glancing around at the patrons enjoying their meals and at Carol chatting with their regular about family photos. "Mama's Noodles was born from my need to protect and provide for the people I love," Emily said. "I believe in food that brings comfort and connection. When we cook with love and respect for ingredients, for each other, for our community, people find more than a meal here. They find a home." That article ran 2 weeks later under the headline "From Heartbreak to Heartwarming Broth: The Rise of Mama's Noodles." Within days, new customers arrived. Drawn by the story as much as the food, Emily found herself busier than ever, but never too busy to pause, check her daughter's homework via text, or remind Chloe to rest between classes. On the restaurant's 6-week anniversary, Emily organized a small celebration: free bowls of broth for anyone who mentioned Mama's at the door, live music from Lily's school orchestra, and a donation drive to help families struggling with medical bills, and homage to Chloe's early hardships. The night sky glittered with string lights, laughter, and music filling the air. As Emily surveyed the crowd, Carol tapping her foot to the violinist's tune, Lily dancing with classmates, Chloe handing out hot bowls with a proud grin, Emily felt a swell of triumph. In this space, born from adversity, she had forged resilience, compassion, and community. In the months to come, Mama's Noodles would expand its hours, launch catering services for local businesses, and even inspire a small cookbook of Emily's recipes. But that evening, under the stars and amid the aroma of simmering broth, Emily Caldwell realized that the true recipe for success wasn't just noodles and broth. It was the blend of empathy, perseverance, and unwavering belief in the power of a shared meal to heal old wounds and nourish new beginnings. The morning sunlight seeped through the curtains of the small bungalow where Emily Caldwell now lived with her daughter Lily and friend Chloe. The finality of the divorce decree still weighed on Emily's chest, but in its place rose a determination to rebuild. Lily, once timid and withdrawn after her father's betrayal, now bounded through the living room clutching her robotics club trophy, eager to show her mother every new circuit design she'd sketched. Each proud beam on Lily's face stitched fresh seams in Emily's heart. Emily watched her daughter hop off to the kitchen, where Carol Benson, Emily's mother, was preparing breakfast. The scent of multigrain pancakes with fresh berries offered more than nourishment. It was a daily affirmation that they had chosen love and security over scandal and sorrow. Meanwhile, John Caldwell, formerly head of the household, found himself adrift in a downtown apartment, the walls bare and echoing with regret. He woke each morning to pale light and emptiness where Emily's laughter and Lily's footsteps used to be. His mother, Marion Caldwell, had moved into assisted living after a serious fall, her memory fragile and her temper blunted by confusion. She no longer wielded her knitting needles like weapons of criticism. Instead, she wandered the halls of the retirement home, sometimes pausing before a mirror and asking aloud who the woman was staring back. On rare visits, she peered at John from across the room, blinked, then murmured, "Is that my son?" Her sorrowful blankness drove home the cost of John's choices. He had not only lost his marriage, but had compromised the dignity of his mother in her final years. John's own health faltered under the weight of stress and remorse. A routine checkup revealed failing kidney function, a consequence of high blood pressure worsened by sleepless nights and constant anxiety. When the news arrived, it galvanized John into action. He reached out to Emily, leaving a tentative voicemail. "I'm sorry for everything. I'm sick and scared. Please tell Lily I love her." Emily listened once, archived the message, and then sent back a brief text. "We'll talk when you're stable." It was not forgiveness, but it was a thread of humanity extending across the chasm he had created. The most astonishing turn came when Lily, guided by her mother's compassion, volunteered to be evaluated as a potential kidney donor for her father. At 10 years old, she faced blood tests and medical questionnaires with a courage that belied her youth. Emily accompanied her through every appointment, holding her hand through needle pricks and endless paperwork. When the results came back indicating a perfect match, the hospital team marveled at the rare parent-to-child donation. Lily, small but fierce, hugged her mother and said, "I want Dad to have a chance to be better." Emily's tears were ones of pride and overwhelming love. In late spring, the transplant surgery was scheduled. The morning of the operation, John lay on one stretcher and Lily on another, side by side in adjacent operating rooms. As Emily paced the waiting area with Carol and Chloe, she felt the full weight of the past year's betrayals and triumphs converge in each anxious breath. Hours later, a doctor emerged with a reassuring smile. "Both patients are stable. Recovery will be challenging, but we expect good outcomes." Relief crashed over Emily in waves so powerful, she had to sit down. Lily's sacrifice had given John a second chance at life, and in doing so, had opened the door for possible reconciliation, though that possibility remained uncertain. While John recuperated, Emily doubled down on her commitments. Mama's Noodles had become more than a business. It was a lifeline for the community. She hired Marcus and Anita full-time, expanded the menu to include vegetarian pho and zucchini-infused udon, and hosted monthly family nights, where proceeds went to local health clinics. The restaurant's bulletin board was crowded with flyers for college scholarships, cancer support groups, and single-parent meetups, resources Emily herself had once desperately needed. Chloe, her daughter on the way, joined the staff as a kitchen assistant, her confidence growing with every steaming bowl she helped serve. When her baby arrived, a healthy little girl with Emily Caldwell as godmother, the entire restaurant staff formed a guard of honor, handing out celebratory dumplings and congratulatory notes pinned to the wall. Even Marion managed to appear at the celebration, leaning on a walker and whispering a hesitant congratulations to both her daughter-in-law and her granddaughter. For a moment, the old matriarch's eyes softened with recognition and pride. Chloe's new role as a mother paralleled Lily's resilience. She enrolled in evening classes at the community center, pursuing a degree in social work to ensure she could support her daughter without fear of financial hardship. Emily helped her apply for childcare grants and arranged tutoring shifts for Chloe's young child at the restaurant's back room during slow afternoons. It was a mosaic of support that mirrored how Emily herself had been lifted by her own mother's care. As for John Caldwell, he emerged from his month-long hospital stay humbled and reflective. He moved back in with Carol in the assisted living facility's family apartment, a smaller, quieter setting meant to stabilize his blood pressure and give him structured routines. Each afternoon, he visited Emily and Lily at Mama's Noodles, bringing fresh fruit for Lily's club meetings and offering sincere apologies for the pain he had caused. Emily, bound by protector's instinct, listened with cautious compassion. "Your recovery is important for Lily," she told him one evening. "We'll support you, but you need to earn back her trust and mine." Their interactions remained formal, measured steps toward a potential future of co-parenting rather than romantic reunion. Months later, as autumn's golden light streamed through the restaurant's front windows, Emily stood behind the counter and watched John coaching Lily's robotics team at a pop-up workshop in the banquet space next door. Chloe cradled her toddler at a table with Carol, comparing sketches for a new book idea Chloe was writing for her child. Across the room, families sipped broth and laughter wove through the air like steam curling from their bowls. Emily felt a swell of contentment. The storm of betrayal and heartbreak had left scars, but it had also unearthed depths of resilience and generosity she never knew she possessed. Each life, John's recovery, Lily's bravery, Chloe's new motherhood, Marian's softened memory, had been reshaped, for better or worse, by those crucibles of crisis. In the quiet moments before closing, Emily tapped a note onto the community bulletin board. "Thank you for believing in second chances." Emily, it was an acknowledgement that they had all, in their own ways, navigated redemption and renewal. As she flipped off the lights and locked the door to Mama's Noodles for the night, Emily Caldwell carried with her the promise that no matter how deep the wound, the human heart's capacity to heal and to help others heal was the truest legacy of their journey. Emily Caldwell stood before the entrance of Mama's Noodles one crisp autumn evening, the glow of lanterns reflecting against the sidewalk. Behind her, the restaurant thrummed with contented diners, families, students, and neighbors drawn together by the promise of nourishment and comfort. She inhaled the fragrant air, a blend of simmering broth, toasted sesame, and fresh cilantro, and allowed herself a moment of gratitude for the strength she had discovered in the face of betrayal, for the unwavering support of her daughter and mother, and for the chance to build something enduring from the shambles of her past. She thought back to the early days, when her world had been torn apart by John's affair, Chloe's pregnancy, and the crushing judgment of Marian's harsh words. At the time, every familiar corner of their home had stung with humiliation. Yet it was precisely that rupture that forced Emily to examine who she truly was beyond the roles assigned to her: dutiful spouse, subservient daughter-in-law, or timid mother defined by her husband's choices. The dissolution of her marriage had been a raw, painful uprooting, but it had also been the catalyst for Emily's rebirth as a leader, entrepreneur, and advocate for those who had no one else to stand by them. She remembered the day Lily offered to donate her kidney, how that child's courage humbled her and illuminated the extraordinary capacity of love to transcend betrayal. And Chloe, once trembling at the kitchen table, had grown into a defender of other single mothers, organizing meal drives and tutoring sessions from the very nook that had once been Emily's sanctuary. Even John's fall from grace had led him to discover humility and purpose through health struggles and eventual volunteering at the hospital, sharing his story to encourage others toward organ donation and honest introspection. Marian, too, in her confused but soft-eyed moments, had flickered back to recognition long enough to whisper apologies and blessings, reminding Emily that love can outlast memory itself. Mama's Noodles had become something greater than a business. It was a community hearth. Parents traded recipes while their children built robots in the adjacent makerspace. College students found fellowship over steaming bowls of spicy Dan Dan noodles and shared stories of exam stress and creative breakthroughs. Elderly patrons claimed favorite seats by the window and nodded approvingly at the staff's efficient care. The bulletin board by the door, once barren, now bulged with announcements for scholarship applications, health clinics, and neighborhood volunteer initiatives. That simple gathering place exemplified Emily's belief that steaming bowls of food, offered with empathy and respect, could knit together disparate lives into a tapestry of mutual support. In the months since its opening, Emily had mentored aspiring chefs who saw in her example the power of resilience. She collaborated with local nonprofits to fund culinary job training for formerly incarcerated individuals. She hosted storytelling nights where families shared migration journeys and ancestral recipes. Above all, she insisted that every person who walked through the door, regardless of background, ethnicity, or circumstance, be greeted with the same warmth she had once struggled to find in her own home. That night, as the final customers drifted out and the cobblestone street emptied of chatter, Emily took a moment beneath the sign that bore her name. The painted bamboo stalks and handwritten letters glowed gently in the lamplight. She placed her hand on the wood and reflected on the journey, the betrayal that had shattered her marriage, the courtroom battles that had tested her resolve, the collective effort to transform pain into purpose. Her life had been uprooted, yet in seeking safety for herself and her children, she had unearthed a garden of compassion that flourished beyond her wildest hopes. Emily gazed upward at the night sky, the stars faint but steady. She imagined each one as a life touched by Mama's noodles, students finding scholarships, single parents receiving babysitting support, patients with new starts after life-saving transplants. Each twinkle represented the ripple effect of a single act of kindness or a bowl of restorative broth. In her heart, Emily knew the true message wasn't about noodles or profits. It was about the profound truth that adversity, no matter how devastating, need not define one's destiny. Instead, when met with courage, empathy, and collaboration, it could become the seed of transformation. Betrayal might fracture trust, but it also unveiled the hidden reservoirs of strength within individuals and communities. Illness and hardship might expose vulnerabilities, yet they also provided opportunities for remarkable compassion, like Lily's selfless gift, or Chloe's unwavering commitment to her child, or John's path from deception to advocacy. Tonight, with the smell of garlic still on her fingers and the quiet satisfaction of a day well served warming her spirit, Emily whispered her final message into the night. We are more than the sum of our wounds. In every ending stands a new beginning, and in every broken heart lies the potential for healing when we choose to stand together, share our strengths, and nourish one another with kindness. With that, Emily turned the sign to closed, locked the door to Mama's noodles, and stepped onto the silent street, carrying the glow of hope in her chest. The future was unwritten, but she knew they would meet it head-on, one compassionate bowl, one courageous act, and one steadfast heart at a time. And that brings us to the end of today's story on TrueStory Vibes. Don't forget to leave a comment with a quote or moment that touched you the most. Your words give our team the motivation to keep creating more heartfelt stories. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.